Hi, welcome to another video where this time we're looking at some of the time playing possibilities within the 3/4 polyrhythm. So in the last video we looked at some ways you could apply that onto the kit with some fill ideas, and now we're going to apply it to some grooves and breaking it up into three different approaches. So we're going to try playing it in the right hand whilst maintaining the groove between the kick and snare. Then we're going to keep the right hand part steady but change the kick and snare to imply the 3/4 polyrhythm. And then finally we're going to change the whole groove, which will be essentially given an implied time feel, and it will feel like the groove has slowed down. So let's start at the beginning there. And what we're going to do is we're going to kick off with a basic shuffle feel. And so now instead of the right hand playing the shuffle rhythm, we're going to imply that 3/4 polyrhythm, or the half note triplet. To get there, first up we're going to play single stroke eighth note triplets, which will mean your right hand will now be playing quarter note triplets. Now if we start accenting every other note in that hand, I'll put it on the bell. Those bell notes will be the 3/4. Next I'll introduce the rock shuffle pattern underneath, and I'll alternate between playing the shuffle and this 3/4 rhythm. We could also do that in a half-time shuffle setting. The only thing to note when you're doing that is it doesn't run as single strokes anymore in order to put the backbeat on beat 3. If you're playing the full-time shuffle with the backbeat on 2 and 4, you can maintain single strokes. But it doesn't work in a half-time setting, so I'd probably perhaps play the Purdy shuffle so the bass drum fills in some of the spaces. So that approach where you're implying another time feel over the top of the groove is sometimes called overriding, and that approach you can hear on the Carnival track We Are, and just given the placement of the snare drum versus that sound, which in this case is played on a China cymbal, you can actually maintain the single strokes underneath to give it, to sort of tie it together. The pattern is something like this. Or you may choose to play that kind of feel just playing the 3 notes, that half note triplet over the top of the groove. Personally, I find that a little harder because you've not got that framework of the subdivision holding it together. An alternative, instead of playing it, the notes in between over on the hats, you could perhaps come to the snare, or then, as I say, perhaps just keeping the cymbal on its own. And we could also do that with our shuffle or halftime shuffle feels as well. What's effective about that approach is that you've maintained the underlying kick and snare pattern, but you've implied this other feel over the top. So you've still got the main groove running underneath. Another alternative right-hand pattern is filling in some of the other eighth note triplets. So, for example, if we go back to the shuffle pattern, which just started as single strokes, okay, so let's move on, and now let's maintain the shuffle rhythm over in the right hand on one of the hi-hats, and we're now going to play the 4/3 rhythm on the bass drum and the snare. So before we do it so it alternates and creates this implied feel, you really need the independence to be able to play the shuffle and then the three, the half note triplet, against the shuffle, like this. And so just to clarify, you really need to know where those notes are falling, and they are beat 1, the second partial of the triplet of beat 2, the third partial of the triplet of beat 3. So once you can do that on the bass drum and the snare, the next step is to alternate. So we're going to go kick, snare, kick, snare. This will now take 2 bars. And so relative to our shuffle, this will start to imply a slower groove in the shuffle setting. There's a chance there that you perhaps heard a sort of illusion as I played that, and you were just hearing that as a regular 4/4 groove with a shuffle implied on the hi-hat like this. And yes, that's exactly what I was playing, but I was playing that through an eighth note triplet rate. So now, in order to contextualize it, I play 2 bars of shuffle before it, and then this half note triplet rhythm on the bass drum and snare. So it'll feel like the groove slows down. So I was filling in the ghost notes there. You don't need to do that. You could just start out by playing the shuffle and just the 3/4 between the bass drum and the snare. Let's try that approach with a different kick and snare pattern that should start to really imply a different feel. Next, let's revisit the para triplet idea that we looked at in the previous video, where we're playing a single paradiddle through eighth note triplets. So it takes 2 bars to resolve. So now if I orchestrate that between the kick hat and snare, I'm going to play it on these hats so I can continue to step the quarter note. I'm going to put the bass drum with the right hand accent, and the snare will play what will be our backbeat with this new slower feel. And that starts to lead us to this final idea where the whole pattern changes. So the ride pattern changes to the 3/4 and the kick and the snare. And we now get this implied time feel. So what I'll do this time is the ride is going to change to playing quarter note triplets, accenting the bell on the half note triplet, and I'll put the bass drum on the 3/4 polyrhythm. Once again, I'll step the quarter note here. This is a 2-bar pattern. So the second bar you will start on the snare drum. So when attempting that, it's really important to just keep your ear on the eighth note triplet subdivision. When I'm playing that kind of thing, I really like to step the hi-hat through it. It really means that I know where the time is, and if I'm playing it with other people, that they know where the original pulse is, even though we've got this implied time feel and it feels like the groove slows down. And so just another idea with that is playing something like that kick and snare groove I played earlier, but where we maintained the shuffle, but now the right hand part will go as well. So in other words, this groove that we hear in a 16th note rate, 3 and a 4 and a, we'll now play that over 2 bars of eighth note triplets. So there you go, a few different ways of applying the 3/4 polyrhythm in a time playing setting. Hopefully it's brought a bit of clarity to that and given you some ideas next time you're on the kit in that shuffle context. And so yeah, please like and subscribe, and I'll see you on the next video.